Oh, hello there. You've just caught us reading the papers. Because myself and Kensington, we like to keep abreast of what's happening in the world. And newspapers are still a good source for information, even if circulation is down these days. And they still play a vital role in setting the national agenda. So why don't we just have a look at all the UK's major newspapers? And that is starting right now.
The Financial Times very much does what it says on the tin. A newspaper for finance and business news, primarily designed for city traders.
The Financial Times is actually Kensington's favourite newspaper because he likes to play the international markets and he gets very angry if anyone takes his copy of the FT. Isn't that right, Kensington? That's right. Moving on, we're going to look at the tabloid papers in the UK and we'll start with the most notorious.
The Daily Mail, Britain's biggest selling national daily newspaper. It's the paper that once supported the Nazis, and its editorial policy hasn't really changed a lot since then. They hate the EU, they hate migrants, they hate benefits, basically anything that fits outside their narrow view of Britishness. So it's perhaps ironic then that a paper that claims so much to be on the side of the UK taxpayer has owners that go out of their way to try and avoid paying any tax at all. And alongside this, you have the Daily Express, a newspaper for readers who think that the Mail is a bit too liberal. It's a bit too left wing.
In my opinion, the Daily Mail and the Express are responsible for propagating some of the most dangerous and damaging cultural myths and misinformation in the UK. Talking of scuzzy publications,
The Scum. Sorry, The Sun. A right wing newspaper that basically serves as Rupert Murdoch's mouthpiece in the UK, pushing whatever agenda he wants for it. After purchasing the paper in 1970, Murdoch's Sun became known for its page free girls, a feature that was eventually dropped in 2017 after much public pressure. But it undoubtedly served its purpose in that it did help the Sun boost its circulation. And some of the models featured did go on to have successful careers, most notably Samantha Fox, who was just 16 when she first appeared in the paper. For those wondering, Jordan, aka Katie Price, appeared in the Daily Star. The Sun also became known for its sensationalist tabloid headlines, such as this infamous headline: Freddie Starr ate my hamster.
but the UK 80s TV comedian Freddie Starr didn't eat anyone's hamster. Did he, Kensington?
On far less humorous note, The Sun also published this front page in the wake of the Hillsborough disaster, when 96 football fans attended a match but never came home again. All inquiries have found this to all be lies, and The Sun published it to protect the police and further a narrative of football fans being out of control. They are scum. And to this day, newsagents in Liverpool will not sell copies of The Sun, which makes Liverpool a fairly unique place in the UK, as it's relatively untouched by the Murdoch empire. Against The Sun, you have the Daily Mirror, which is very similar in its style, but is much more left-leaning in its content. Then there's the Metro, free newspaper which used to only be available in London, but you can now find in most UK towns and cities. The paper itself is okay, but what it's really most known for is its Rush Hour Crush section, which sort of serves as its sometimes slightly creepy Lonely Hearts section, where readers will send in vague messages such as, "To the blonde woman in the red coat who got on the tube at Charing Cross, I was staring at you the whole time. Drink? Man in the hat."
Do you remember the one you sent in, Kensington? It was never going to work. To the girl with the pink hair on the circle line. I was the small bear in the blue duffel coat and the black hat. Fancy sharing another strawberry jam sandwich? How could you expect anyone to remember such a vague description? Alright, moving on to the last P section. And it's it's a bit of a weird one.
The Daily Star gave up the pretense of being in any way a serious newspaper a long time ago. In fact, it prides itself on being a place to escape all that boring political stuff. So it is perhaps ironic then that the Daily Star is responsible for one of the greatest political stunts of recent times. You see, they done a live stream to see which would last longer, a lettuce or Prime Minister Liz Truss. The lettuce won. And Liz Truss hates being reminded that she will go down in history as the Prime Minister that lost to a lettuce.
She's so dumb. But yeah, so that's all the major tabloids. And now we'll move on to what's referred to as the broadsheets. Traditionally, it was because of their larger size, though most of them are actually a lot smaller these days.
We'll start with the I paper, which basically started out as a scaled down version of the Independent, which has now moved online. And it tries to be more balanced in its views. So you'll get left wing commentators, but also there are more right wing commentators as well. It would be my personal paper of choice, and it does a great puzzle section on Fridays. Next up, we've got The Times, which is another right wing leaning paper, and despite being owned by Rupert Murdoch, it's actually a lot more reasonably balanced than a lot of its more reactionary contemporaries. I'll probably lose a lot of my cred for saying this, but it's not that bad. And now, arguably Britain's most famous newspaper, the Daily Telegraph. Now, it's always been a quite conservative paper, but at one time it used to be quite reasonable and expressed a whole range of different views. But since about the time of the EU referendum, it's become a lot more extreme, to the point that its content is almost indistinguishable from that of the Daily Mail.
And of course, the thing with the Telegraph is they are the paper that has chosen to stick with the old large broadsheet size. They did ask their readers a few years ago if they would like the paper in a smaller size, but their readers said no. I demand my reading experience be as inconvenient as possible, particularly for when I want to read it on the tube. Well, that's the Telegraph. So let's move on to the one I have saved for last.
And that is, of course, the student stroke liberals paper of choice, The Guardian.
I saved this paper for last because I know there are going to be people who think, oh yeah, he's a bleeding heart woke lefty liberal. Of course he's going to love The Guardian. I mean, that's certainly what Kensington thinks, but I don't. And you have failed to grasp that I am a white heterosexual male. This paper actively hates me. It blames me for all the problems in the world. It is just as ridiculous and hysterical as the Daily Mail, albeit coming from the other side of the argument.
The Guardian is so ludicrous that very often it will fall into becoming a parody of itself. There are some other papers out there that are aimed at very select groups, but they're not always easy to find.
As well as those, there are also Sunday editions, Scottish editions of the papers, which are slightly different to their English counterparts. But really, I just wanted to cover all the main ones. Kensington, if you ran a newspaper, what would it be like? I think you'll find that's just the Daily Sport. Well, I hope you have found this informative and helped you gain a better understanding of the UK newspaper scene. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Help an angel get its wings by hitting the notification bell. And if there's someone you don't like, maybe you could share this video with them. Until next time, Star White, and I'm out.